We first of all apologize for starting late. Nevertheless, it does not remove from the gravity of the purpose for which we are here today. So I want to welcome you all and welcome everyone, those listening online from different parts of the world, to this World Press Conference. And we are just about to begin. I would like to, first of all, recognize the gentleman on the high table here, just before we get started. So the first is Professor Yusuf Turaki, who is the chairman of the Board of Trustees of CONECDA. CONECDA is a unifying platform for all the Middle Belt nationalities. And it is just important for us to note at this time that all the nationalities, all the ethnic nationalities in Nigeria are represented here today. Also to his immediate right is Otumba Shade Olukoya of the Ilono Omo Odua, the Yoruba delegation to NINAS. We also have a distinguished Majeure, who is the leading Majeure delegation to NINAS. And we also have Dr. Rotimi Olokudono, also from the NINAS Global Secretariat. And we have Pastor Adebayo Balogun of the NINAS Secretariat. And of course, there is Tony Nadi, the Secretary General of NINAS and the main convener. So it's been 1 year since the force majeure declaration of 16th December 2020, last year. And between 2020 December and today, approximately a year, a lot has happened. A lot has happened, and very, very positive developments around the cause of NINAS. And then you'll be hearing a little bit about that today. But we are very, very thankful that we have come to some really very significant juncture in the quest for the freedom for the ethnic nationalities in Nigeria. So without further ado, I would want to invite Professor Turaki to present the address. Professor Turaki.
Thank you. And I read the address to the World Conference and World Press, the constitutional force majeure, and a countdown to the enthronement of the will of the people, being the text of a stock taking, status and next steps statement presented December 19, 2021 by the Nigerian Indigenous Nationalities Alliance for Self-Determination, NINAS, at a World Press Conference in Lagos, 1 year after the December 16, 2020 activation of the joint multi-regional constitutional force majeure. Theme: terminating the fraud of 1999 protocols. I want to present this to all Nigerians and and also those who are listening to us anywhere in the world. I greet you all. Dear compatriots and gentlemen of the press, whereas by a joint multi-regional constitutional force majeure proclamation, the Nigerian Indigenous Nationalities Alliance for Self-Determination, NINAS, declared a union dispute on the ground of grave constitutional grievances with a 5-point demand and a 90-day period of notice to the government of the Federation of Nigeria, within which formal commitments must be made by the federal government of Nigeria for the resolution of those grave grievances, failing which, the peoples of the Alliance territories may reconsider the limited toleration and allegiance being extended to the disputed 1999 Constitution. An online petition addressed to the United Nations Security Council was launched by NINAS to keep the international community abreast of developments in Nigeria regarding the aforementioned union dispute. Second, for ease of reference, we reproduce here the 5-point demand of NINAS, by which now stands as the 5-point proposition of NINAS to peoples of Nigeria, currently being pursued vigorously by the peoples themselves to retrieve their sovereignty hijacked since 1967 by the federal government. 1. A formal announcement by the federal government of Nigeria acknowledging the constitutional grievances and sovereignty dispute now declared by the peoples of South and Middle Belt of Nigeria. Second, a formal commitment by the federal government of Nigeria to the wholesale decommissioning and jettisoning of the 1999 Constitution as the basis of the Federation of Nigeria, as was done by the government of apartheid era in South Africa in 1990, to commence the process by which the apartheid constitution of the then South Africa was eased out. Third, a formal announcement by the federal government of Nigeria suspending further general elections under the disputed 1999 Constitution, since winners of such election will swear to and govern by that Constitution. Fourthly, a formal initiation of a time-bound transitioning process to midwife the emergence of fresh constitutional protocols by a two-stage process in which the constituent regional blocks will, at the first stage, distill and ratify their various constitutions by referendums and plebiscites, and in the second stage, negotiate the terms of federating afresh as may be dictated by the outcomes of referendum and plebiscites. 5. A formal invitation to the peoples of the South and Middle Belt of Nigeria to work out and in place a transitional authority which shall specify the modalities for the transitioning process, including the composition and mandate of the transitional authority, as well as the time frame for the transitioning and other ancillary matters. In fact, the third point that I want to stress here, at the expiration of the 90-day notice March 16, 2021. A 30-day period of consultations was extended to the state governments, and the elected officials from March 17, 2021, after which another 120-day period of consultations was extended to the people of Nigeria and the stakeholder segment of the international community from April 17, 2021, concluded in August 16, 2021. Thereafter, a Million March, Freedom March, was staged at the UN headquarters in New York, September 14 to 24, 2021, during the 76th session of the UN General Assembly. The point D, the outcome of press notices and constitutions have been spectacular and successful as they force to the front burner a much more enlightened debate around the agitation for a grand reconfiguration of the damaged constitutional foundations of the distressed Nigerian Federation, producing a countrywide consensus against the unitary constitution of Nigeria. The E point, specifically, the federal government of Nigeria, in response to the NINAS constitutional force majeure, rushed to the National Assembly for Constitution Amendment, targeted as some kind of palliative to the grievances raised. But the National Assembly, for the first time, confessed it does not possess the constituent powers required to make or remake a constitution for Nigeria. F point, pressured by their own people, the governors of the southern states took a decision in their maiden meeting in Asaba to pass anti-open grazing laws by September of 2021, and are followed with a decision in another meeting in Lagos to insist on the right of being consulted by the federal government ahead of any military deployment in their states. Most of the states have since passed the anti-open grazing laws, but the governor of Benue State has taken one more step in also signing a law under which local security outfits will carry arms. NINAS expect that other governors of the South and the Middle Belt Alliance territories will follow the courageous example of the Benue State Governor, Samuel Otom, since the invading Fulani militia headsmen are armed with assault rifles. Point G, the peoples of Nigeria, in response to the increasing loud campaign for self-determination, which followed the December 16, 2020 NINAS constitutional force majeure, poured out on the streets in pursuit of their right to self-determination, particularly in the Yoruba land, taking their campaign to the streets of New York, Washington, D.C., London, and European cities, where Easterners have been clamoring for the same right. Point H. On the international circuit, the U.S. did cancel an order for attack helicopters from Nigeria and China, as well as China did also cancel the one bill that indicates that both the US and China were paying close attention to the union dispute raging in Nigeria. It is against the backdrop of these happenings and upon a review of all that has happened since December 16, 2020, activation of the constitutional force majeure, that we invite you here today to share with you information on the commencement of the retirement processes for the 1999 Constitution, for which we state as follows. 1. As Nigeria continues to wobble in the throes of state failure within writhing in blood, and as the constituent components of Nigeria continue their frantic search for extrication from the bondage of unitary Nigeria that has become for them a union of death, attrition, and backwardness, we invite you here today to announce to our people and the concerned international community the success of our December 16, 2020 Constitutional Force Majeure in precipitating the country-wide consensus required for the immediate imposed 1999 unitary Constitution of Nigeria, by which we are in bondage in our homelands, and from which all the many miseries, woes, and failures of Nigeria and Nigerians follows. Point number 2, standing on this countrywide consensus that now includes practically all the constituent ethnic nationalities of Nigeria, the federal government, via the restructure to reduce costs of governance, prescription by the Director General, Budget Office of the Federation, in presence of the principal, the President, and the conservative North, Umagali Naba obsolete Constitution thesis. For the wholesale jettisoning of the 1999 Constitution, it is therefore with a huge sense of relief that we announce to you today the commencement of the people-led processes for the orderly retirement of the 1999 Constitution. The third point, still on the question of consensus among the ethnic constituent components of Nigeria, on the total rejection of master-servant union imposed upon them by the 1999 Constitution, as well as the self-determination imperative for the peoples of Nigeria. NINAS firmly supports the far-reaching decisions of self-preservation by the All Ijaw Summit in Yenagoa of December 4, 2021, particularly Resolution A, B, C, D, E, and F, relating to Ijaw rejection of Nigeria's current unitary constitutional arrangement, as well as the unequivocal resolve to pursue and actualize the Ijaw inalienable right to self-determination using all peaceful, diplomatic, non-violent, and other tools, civil obedience. Point 4, let it be known to the whole world and the operators of the Nigerian state that this position, clearly articulated by the Ijaw for themselves in the aforementioned December 4, 2021 declarations, largely applied to and represents the collective aspiration and resolve of the rest of the indigenous nationalities of Nigeria, particularly in the South and Middle Belt, now operating as NINAS. Point number 5. Let it also be known that the purpose of the December 16, 2020 joint multi-regional constitutional force majeure proclamation by the Nigerian Indigenous Alliance for Self-Determination, NINAS. Full text published as advertorial at pages 38, 39, 40, and 41 of January 2021 edition of the Guardian magazine newspaper of Nigeria was to aggregate the grave constitutional grievances of the constituent components of Nigeria, such as was raised by all Majeure summit in their December 4th, 2021 declaration at Yenagoa, and to provide a viable, time-bound framework and process for an orderly resolution of those grievances within the context of the self-determination rights of each of the nationalities currently trapped in the failed Logadian experiment of 1914. Point 6, as indicated in the 5-point proposition by NINAS, the successor constitutional arrangements dictated by the self-determination right of peoples of Nigeria shall be ratified by referendums and plebiscites to be undertaken during a period of transitioning that will commence from the point at which a formal announcement is made suspending preparations for further national elections under the repudiated 1999 Constitution. Point 7, as we prepare to commence the practical winding up processes for an orderly retirement of the 1999 Constitution, let us remind ourselves that everything was currently lament in Nigeria flows from the 1999 Unitary Constitution, whether it is the killing going on everywhere in Nigeria, the general insecurity, the seizure of all economic assets, including oil and gas, the ports and other maritime assets, solid minerals, including gold, the monumental corruption. We see quota system skewed opportunities distribution, the egregious impunity constantly on display, the decay in infrastructure, the lack of electricity and mounting tariffs, the broken down refineries, and the frequent height in petroleum prices. Everything flows from the 1999 Constitution, especially the 68-item Federal Executive Legislative List. Also, there is no possibility of the rule of law under a worse than apartheid 1999 Constitution. Nothing will get better in Nigeria under the unitary constitutional order, no matter who gets to power. Point number 8, let us also remind ourselves that whether we seek regional autonomy, resource control, or outright exit from Nigeria to become an independent sovereign state, the first order of business is the decommissioning and easing out of the 1999 Constitution. Then, a transitioning process within which referendums, plebiscites, and negotiations for fresh protocols will be undertaken as indicated in the NINAS 5-point proposition. Now to the action. We must take an orderly retirement of the 1999 Constitution. Our logic. It is no longer a matter for debate. A, that the source from which the wars and miseries of Nigeria and Nigerians flow is the 1999 Unitary Constitution of Nigeria. B, that the life of the 1999 Constitution is renewed and reinforced once every 4 years by general elections. C, that only political parties contest election in Nigeria as declared by the Supreme Court of Nigeria in a governorship election suit from Rivers State. D, that all political parties in Nigeria subscribe to the 1999 Constitution and therefore contest election under that constitution. This means that whichever party wins the general election in Nigeria, the elected candidate must, as a prerequisite for assuming office, swear to and govern by the 1999 Constitution. This further means that after each round of election, the Constitution and all dictated structures and provisions erected by it remain intact, and so also the wars of Nigeria and Nigerians getting only worse. From the foregoing, it is clear that whoever genuinely seeks to extinguish the source of the wars and miseries of Nigeria and Nigerians must find a way to break this set cycle of periodic renewal of the life of the 1999 Constitution by way of elections. Unfortunately, on account of the humongous personal, financial, and other benefits that flow from political power in Nigeria, the political parties and political merchants of Nigeria, who are fully aware of the evils embedded in the 1999 Constitution, choose to be dishonest by constantly grandstanding about changing the lives of the people for better or bringing down paradise for the people if voted into power, knowing fully well that nothing will change for the masses. They prefer to take advantage of the ignorance of the masses, who, despite being the chief victims of the impoverishment and deadly malfeasances of the 1999 Constitution, get easily lured every 4 years by the political parties and political merchants into elections under the same 1999 Constitution that simultaneously guarantees their damnation as well as the opulence of the political merchants. The next round of renewal of the source of our collective misery, that is the election, is in 2023. It is obvious that the action to be taken to end our bondage and misery is to shut down the voyage to any further national elections under the 1999 Constitution, which merely renews our bondage. Accordingly, guided by the 5-point proposition of the NINAS CFM of December 6th, we must now raise up and prevail on the political parties to halt their preparations for the 2023 round of national elections so that the transitioning process can commence instead of wobbling on to another round of national elections in 2023 under the 1999 Constitution, as Nigeria could snap without further warning, having shown all the vital signs of a failed state. A call to action. To current political office holders in Nigeria, NINAS says that our campaign is not to get you out of office, nor are we anarchists. That is the reason for the transitioning process contained in our 5-point proposition, under which current governance structures will remain in place on an adjusted basis for the period of the transitioning, just as apartheid era in South Africa had to do in 1990 to ease itself out of the quagmire of apartheid constitution. We cannot continue to play the role of Judas' goat, luring our own people to deeper damnation, impoverishment, and slaughter every 4 years. We could be statements for once even in our own enlightened self-slaughter every 4 years. We could be statements for once even in our own enlightened self-interest as the kind of societal collapse staring Nigerian in the face right now will not spare anyone. To the media, NINAS says Nigeria is in distress and the people are dying in large numbers. The task of taking this redemption message to the masses of our people falls squarely on you, just as was the case during the fight for independence from the British colonial rule. To the religious leaders in Nigeria, NINAS says, on which side are you in the contestation between light and darkness? Where are the Bishop Desmond Tutus in this land? Ditto for the lawyers in Nigeria. Where do you stand in this debate that is costing lives and blood? To the peoples and masses of Nigeria, NINAS says, the prison gate is open. Let us get up and walk swiftly past it to our freedom. All we need to do is to firmly tell the political parties and merchants that we shall not go with them to renew our enslavement yet again in 2023. That choice is one between life and death, as failure to stop the vicious cycle only leaves us open to the invasion of those who are on a mission to conquer us and who are being enabled by the 1999 Constitution they impose upon us. To the young people who enacted the NSAS revolution, NINAS says, the redemption of your future, that is mortgaged by a country that feeds on its young, is in the 5-point proposition of NINAS constitutional force majeure. Join the task of halting the voyage to the next renewal of your bondage in 2023. When they ask you to form or join political parties, thank you for your attention. Long live the indigenous people of Nigeria, issued on this 19th day of December 2020. Thank you. By the NINAS Board of Conveners, 2021. Thank you.
Okay, media, you've heard us. What do you say? Are there observations? Are there questions? Carry on with take the questions. Just put it back so we can get to the questions.
Thank you very much, Professor Turaki. All right, so we want to take at this time questions from the gentlemen and ladies of the press. Questions? And then the format for asking your question, you tell us your name, and then the media house, the agency you represent, and then you ask your question. Yes, sir, please. Yes.
Yeah. My name is Njenje. I work with the French business.
Could you just use it this way? See the way I'm holding the mic.
Yeah.
Put it this way.
My name is Njenje.
Hold the mic what?
See the way I'm holding it. Yeah. No, it's okay. Yes.
Yeah, go ahead.
Today I got a French business. Yeah, you outlined your agenda. But my worry is this issue has always been on agitation for review or an outright change of the constitution. We are aware that there have been since 1999, there have been series of constitutional controversies. Jonathan, and some people have always said that instead of outright translation of the constitution, why don't you dig out all the reports of all these various constitutional conferences and try to work on that? So that's just the concern I have. I don't see how your group will be able to push that through to have a new constitution before 2023. And we also know that election cycle in Nigeria is 4 years. Period. The next election is supposed to be 2023. But now you are saying there shouldn't be election in 2023. Would that not create a vacuum? Are we not calling for anarchy? If there will be election, just less than 2 years, and you are calling for an anarchic constitution. So I don't want to reconsider all these kind of conversations. Thank you.
Thank you. I can assure you that no contradiction anywhere. If there is any contradiction, it will be because there are some of our people who do not understand the meaning of constitution. Talking of 1999 and how long it has been, I'm sure we all recall the apartheid constitution of South Africa and when it was introduced. The apartheid constitution was introduced in 1910. The campaign to stop it, ANC, was formed in 1912. And every day from that point, because they saw that nation, they saw an instrument that made them slaves in their lands, and they began to push back. It took many decades. In the years that followed, 2 lawyers came into their midst, one Oliver Tambo, the other Nelson Mandela, the younger one. And they never looked sideways. It got to where they had to go to trial, being accused of all kinds of things. They went to prison, 27 years, they didn't stop. It was only in 1990 that sanity came to the head of those who were holding them to that constitution of mass. On the constitution that made us slaves, we don't intend to do that. Therefore, between 1999 and now, we're talking about just 22 years or so, most 23, but let's say 22. And what the campaign to get rid of that 1999 constitution that we topple it, and that has made us slaves in our land. That campaign will not stop until that constitution goes down. Be assured of that. No matter the number of ignorant people who are thinking it will stay. It will not stay. The alliance we built that took this 22 years to come to where it is now has become an overwhelming majority. And those who doubt, we are still willing to take the matter to referendum. I can assure you that those who are being slaughtered across the middle belt of Nigeria may not be patient to wait for referendum. You saw what the judge said the other day. I also tell you, we will be lucky to have them waiting for referendum. That they already told us that they've done everything to comport themselves to, endure what Nigeria has been inflicting on them. The environment is completely damaged, and there's no discussion for how it could be remediated. And nobody is even concerned about what they feel or what they think. As it is with them, you saw the Yoruba and what's going on with them. You saw the East. What's going on with them? They are being slaughtered. Not that they don't know how to defend themselves, but this constitution takes the gun from them and hands over to those who are killing them. So in every way you try to look at it, those politicians that are talking about elections under that constitution are telling us that our sovereignty is now with them. I pray they don't find out on the streets, like it happened in many jurisdictions, that our sovereignty is not with them. And talking about election that is coming, is Nigeria meant for election or election for Nigeria? People are talking about debt. People are talking about impoverishment that made Nigeria the global capital for poverty. Everything that will fail has failed. And we know that it is this constitution that is directly responsible for everything we complain about, whether it is the killings or the gross decay in infrastructure. Everything we complain about, corruption that is mounting under this constitution, corruption is official. If you doubt me, I will take you to the sections that make corruption official. Not that officials, if you may think officials are corrupt. So, I tell you, they want to renew what they after the election, the federal government cannot remain. 68 items of the exclusive list will remain. Therefore, your security will not improve. Your infrastructure will not improve. The refineries that are dead will remain dead because refining is on that exclusive list. Prices will continue to increase on electricity because electricity generation and transmission is taken away from you, not that you don't have capacity. Your assets, the oil and gas assets of the Niger Delta will remain in the hands of the Jigawa people. That they're inviting us to because elections must happen. I guess when they win elections, governor, senator, the rest of the people are dying, and we are the last peacemakers left in the land. Let everybody hear it loud and clear. We are the last set of statesmen not tempted to go to join in sharing what they share when they win elections. But those who are dying, those whose assets have been seized, those whose future have been ruined. You saw what happened in NSAS. You think those young people are planning to come and renew their engagement with you in 2023 because you are waving flag of PDP and APC and all such nonsense? I tell you, we better listen now to the voices of reason still left in the land, who are still willing to walk us to where we take this matter to orderly resolution. There is no anarchy anywhere. South Africa in 1990 announced a transition during which the government of the day remained on a transitional basis. Of course, their mandate will have to defer to the mandate of the sovereign constituents of Nigeria. The National Assembly of Nigeria already accepted that did not have constituent powers to make constitution for us. We have not made a constitution. That's our contention. We cannot continue to pretend we made a constitution. It is on account of that lie that we have agreed to submit our lands and our sovereignty into this union as contained in the preamble to that constitution. That's why our lives are upside down. And that lie will not be allowed to stand by those who suffer from it. That's where we are. We go to transition, there's no anarchy. But if they refuse and continue to charge their way towards the election because nobody can stop them, we'll just wait and see how far they go.
All right, thank you very much. In addition to what Tony said, many of you know just a few days ago, there's the hashtag that went viral in the northern Nigeria, because even the North is bleeding. They said North is dying, North is bleeding. I don't remember what it was on Twitter. And one key thing he says that makes that demands remarking is that the NINAS strategy, the NINAS outreach is the last peace outreach left for Nigeria. Because many of these people are not waiting. And so what we're trying to do is just control demolition. As for whether it's going to happen, it is already happening. Thank you for that question. All right, next. Okay, so after Professor Cherokee, then we can take some more questions.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much. See, Nigeria is like an old rocketed car. You try to fix the tires because they're old. And as soon as you finish fixing the tires, then you have another problem. And you keep on fixing the car. The Constitution, the 1999 Constitution of Nigeria is like an old rocketed car. You don't fix it. You don't fix a constitution, how it came about, how it was developed, and then imposed upon Nigeria. In itself is a wrong method. That is not how nations develop constitution. Who owns the constituent elements of Nigeria? They are the ethnic nationalities. And not the people whom you have appointed to head government, to be the ones who will tell you how you are going to organize yourself as a nation. Now, the idea of anarchy, because some people are fixing the constitution, if you don't allow the National Assembly to fix the constitution, there will be anarchy, not at all. What we're asking is that this 1999 constitution let all Nigeria phase it out. And then we have a good way of developing a constitution, legitimate constitution for the whole of Nigeria. The way this present 99 constitution is being implemented is not in the best interest of some sections of Nigeria. Thank you.
Okay. More questions from the press? Most of the questions your yeah. Okay, so the answers for the question
Um, I wish sure there are no further questions. Okay? If there are no other questions, take a few minutes to hand over to you what NINAS is saying, because you are the interface with that public that should know. What you see in the background there is like a gathering of how we got to where we are. This challenge on that constitution that enslaves us, that is responsible for our killing, began right in the week the 1999 constitution was introduced. In 1999, because it was the 1979 constitution that they carried forward. And the reason we started immediately was because even that 1979 constitution, I see some of our people, including senior advocates of Nigeria, professors of law, talk about the 1979 constitution as having emerged from the Constitutional Assembly that was set up at the time. Constitutional Assembly of 1977 did all its work, submitted its report to the Supreme Military Council of Majeure at the time. On the 21st of September in 1978, Obasanjo went on national television and announced 17 amendments to the finished work of the Constitutional Assembly. And those 17 amendments took away everything that was important, that was the reason for even the Constitutional Assembly at all, and went fully back to the draft commissioned by Murtala Mohammed and handed over to the Constitutional Assembly. The Constitutional Assembly did not accept the 12 states that had been carved out from the 4 regions that collapsed in 1967. What that meant was that you saw the Director General of the Budget Office the other day saying in the presence of the President that the current constitutional agreement cannot carry Nigeria any further. Nigeria is financing 812 governments. 812. You have 36 states. You have 74 government areas. You have the Federal Capital Territory Authority, and all of them. When you put it all together, the President, the Vice, the state governors and their deputies, you can now see the size of bureaucracy. All the money available is no longer able to pay for that bureaucracy. Where does the money for education come from? Where does the money for healthcare come from? Where does the money for infrastructure come from? Nigeria is now borrowing to finance the profligacy of paying for 812 government when we had only 4 that was more effective, that provided electricity, that did our roads and all of that. So what you will see in that gallery is step by step of how we first called a meeting of the whole country. The one that some of you media people heard about PRONACO, Pro-National Conference Organization. We called a meeting of the whole country, the nationality scale. 164 ethnic delegation scale. Sat for 2 years. We sat in Lagos, we sat in Port Harcourt, we sat in Enugu, we went to Jos, we went to Kano, we came back to Kabul, Lagos. The US sent us a mission, European Union sent us a mission, because we were telling ourselves at the time that, look, what we have now is going to consume us, except we find a way. They will not listen. Buhari was part of the Fulani delegation that came to that meeting. Sayyid Abubakar and Sultan Isobodona was part of the Fulani delegation that came to that meeting. All the groups that were armed and fighting against the Nigerian state, Stalin Okuba and his Niger Delta Volunteer Force of the time, Gandada and his OPC, they were all persuaded. We went round to plead with them, to put their guns aside. Let us go to a meeting. That we are sure that if we look at all these issues, the government does not own our sovereignty. If you go to section 14.2a of this constitution, you will see where they admitted that sovereignty belongs to the people, from whom government, through this constitution, derive all its powers and authority. I've just quoted that section. when you come to the preamble that then lies, that we, the people, having solemnly and firmly resolved to live in unity as one indissoluble, indivisible country, then the second line, do hereby make agreement to accept the following constitution. That is what we are saying did not happen. That is why we are saying the title deed by which the Fulani and all the others are invading our lands and killing our people is a forgery. And they cannot continue to pretend we have a union when we agree to be a federation of equal partnership, when we agree to be a secular union, and you impose Sharia that requires you to kill the other people as a freedom. You now transpose your feudalist worldview on the rest of us. You put a 68-item exclusive list that prevents me from generating the electricity I can generate. The Ojiri River power plant was the source of electricity powered by coal that serviced the whole of eastern region of Emma that went all the way to Port Harcourt. It was Emma that took the Trans-Amadi industrial layout before the oil and gas, the arm inflation came. What happened to that? As the coal finished, Nigeria did not want electricity in that part of the country. They shut down that coal. As I people do, there's no single electricity power plant in Ibodan, in the southeast of today. Because somebody has imposed a constitution. The refineries are dead. By January now, they'll be telling you the new prices you pay for petroleum. The reason where we call you is basically a media interaction. Let us explain to you what we are talking about. By the time the prices will go to 300 plus for 1 liter of petroleum, you will be reminded that you were told that it is because the refining oil and gas is on that exclusive list of that constitution. If that constitution goes down today, in less than 6 months, I was in the oil industry. I left it from a senior executive position in 1998. If that constitution goes down today, such that people will take up the question, the business of refining, you will see scores and scores of small refineries, they call modular refineries, all over the place. Go to Texas and see the number of them. The only reason we are waiting for 4 refineries that the federal government that seized control have run to the ground and are importing. They are compelling us to pay full market prices for petroleum products to be imported from anywhere it comes. And we have 3 million barrels of crude oil that is sold every day. What is our own share in that 3 million? If they sell it, share the money among themselves every month, and throw us to the open to buy at international prices from the people they license to import. And so every time, because your naira is falling like a pack of cards, every time they have to look for more money to be able to pay for that irresponsibility. As it is with refining, so it is with electricity. What is there in electricity generation and transmission that is now made exclusive? And Nigeria of 200 million people is discussing 3,000 and 5,000 megawatts of electricity. Proudly, South Africa is 1/3 of our size. South Africa is running on 50,000 megawatts of electricity. The only reason we won't have electricity is because electricity transmission and generation is domiciled by this constitution to the federal government. Lagos can provide electricity for the 40 million people that depend on Lagos. The only reason they can't do it is because the constitution says they cannot do it. The Fulani herdsmen that are invading you, killing people, kidnapping, doing all kinds of things. You saw what Gomi was inviting us to the other side. That's what can we do about it? And the Njenje will call press conference to say that the governors that pass open grazing law are not going to have any police pay attention. And the IG will say, no, we are not going to enforce your law. People, you are in your community. You have nowhere else to go. You have only your family to live on. And people you can see are coming with guns into the place, and you can't defend yourself. And you are just telling me that we have to carry on as if it's all right. So whether it is the killings that we're talking about, or the refineries that are not working, or the electricity that's not working, everything you complain about, even the corruption you think. So anybody who says he's fighting corruption under this constitution, tell that person that 29 said he's a criminal. It doesn't matter who he is. If he wants a debate, he comes. In 10 minutes, he will lose his deposit. Why? Because that constitution absolves the government of responsibility towards you. You don't know. And the lawyers who should be telling you are not telling you. Some people say they are human rights lawyer or some kind of the NGOs that say, oh, corruption must stop. The constitution sets up avenues for massive corruption and comprehensively protects the potential beneficiaries of corruption in black and white. If you doubt me, Section 6, subsection 6C of the Constitution practically absolves the government of responsibility towards you. So when you go in Section 14 to see that the primary responsibility of government is your welfare and your security, they are lying to you because Section 6, subsection 6A already says that it is discretionary to them. Therefore, they don't owe you that obligation. The spare key of the treasury is in the hands of the heads of the executive branch. The only country in the whole world, Nigeria. The president can actually take everything in the treasury. The governors in section 121, 122 can take everything in the state treasuries. And then they have immunity in section 308. At what point are you going to get anything from them? And we go around pretending that it's all okay. Impunity that you see. Section 6, subsection 16 of that constitution says you cannot inquire into all of what they did between 15th of February, the date is listed here, and the 29th of May in 1999, 23 years. That was when they took all of what belonged to all of you and made it their personal estate. Some of them are still richer than the government to tomorrow. And as journalists, the fight we have now is not one for democracy or fair election. Election will not solve this matter. Every day we allow this constitution in place. Those who impose it on us are reconquering us. They are killing our people, taking their land, bringing their own people. You saw when they threw our borders open. It is our fight for independence is ongoing again. You saw how the media, the people, the journalists of that era were the ones who helped the people to liberate themselves from the bondage of colonial rule. We are again in darkness, in fact, in worse situation, because the people who are now colonizing are the Fulani. And they are not making any pretenses about it. You saw the governor in Bogota tell us that the Fulani from everywhere in Africa belong to Nigeria. You saw when Buhari threw our borders open, and they poured in large numbers, pandeming their minister, documenting them. They are killing all over the place and no consequence. You saw when Tajuma went out to tell us that, look, these people are in collusion. Your government is the one hosting and protecting them all over the place. Who is in prison among those who are killing everywhere? When we are forbidden from touching God. So what you see there is the journey through those 22 years involving all these ethnic nationalities in Nigeria. It is on account of what we're doing that Nigeria has not yet boiled over. But I tell you, we've come to where the consensus we have that this constitution cannot continue to be basis of union has come to a stage where that majority that is in that consensus will act together to take down the constitution. We have no quarrel with the Federation of Nigeria if we go back to being a federation. But if it is this Nigeria defined by this constitution, the unitary Nigeria that ties the rest of us down as slaves into bondage, everything feasible, everything doable will be done to take down that constitution. Then we go to the two falsehoods that is our signature at the base of the document that we submitted and that we made that constitution. That is what NINAS is inviting everybody to let us do peacefully. If we refuse to do it peacefully, those who are talking, who no longer care about what will happen to everybody else, and there are millions. You saw, the people who are shouting that the North is bleeding. They haven't seen anything yet except they wake up to the realization that there must be, some kind of owning up to the situation and rolling up our sleeves to go and sit down and begin to work out our salvation. It is not election. What followed the First Republic It was because the constitution had problem. May 29, 1962, the constitution of Western Region was suspended. They didn't deal with that matter. Election came. Oh, let's go to election. Our democracy must grow. It collapsed on their head. By the time the dust settled in 1970, 3.5 million people have been killed in the East. If such thing is allowed to happen today, NINAS is the last set of statesmen. Do you understand what I mean? The politicians are the ones inviting you to election. Media, ask them, by what constitution are they going to govern? When the government itself has owned up to the fact that all the money available is no longer able to pay for their bureaucracy that is thrown up by this constitution, why can't we be the ones to tell them, look, let us go and solve this problem? Because the alternative is that the place will catch fire and nobody is going to be spared. I think that's something.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, gentlemen of the press. I want to thank Professor Turaki and everyone on the table here. So this is formally the end of the press conference, but interactions continue afterwards. Thank you very much.
Media, please just give us another 5 minutes so that we can. There are things we brought to hand over to you. Everybody. Okay. Fine.
You don't need to
tell them we have lunch. We have to share.
What's the number?
Okay, this is also to let you know that there's some lunch.